Good morning, all. I hope everybody is fit and well. I just want to quickly go over the use of training tools. Um, and if you are using a training tool or you're thinking of using a training tool, just to give you a bit of information and which might help the process. Now, I know there are a lot of people that will be frowning and disappointed and no doubt be looking very judgmental if they see your dog in a training tool. But at the end of the day, um, it's your dog, okay? And you are not putting a training tool on your dog to be a bully or to be any kind of arsehole. You are trying to communicate and you are trying to train with your dog. Now, one of the main reasons, one of the many, many main reasons why positive only training, force free crap doesn't work is because if I have a young, over exuberant, very excited, high arousal dog, potentially I want to be able to create a training window which is going to allow the dog to understand that sometimes they're doing good behavior, sometimes they're doing bad behavior. Now, ignoring behavior does not get rid of bad behavior, okay? It's just not reinforced. That does not mean, by no means, that that behavior is going to go away. What a training tool is going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to stop the negative behavior that the dog is doing right then, create a momentary pause, a little training window with the dog, and then you're going to be able to either direct to a different behavior or a different position, or you're going to be able to reward calm behavior because the dogs took that little condor moment, that little stoppage. All right. When you pick your training tool, they don't go in order of severity. This is another little bit of a myth that some people think. You know, it doesn't start off with a slip collar, then a slip lead, then a prong collar, then it's an e collar, and they don't go in order of the biggest, baddest dog with the worst behaviour. They go on the owner's capability and what is most advantageous to them in the ways of communication. So I'll have a dog, that I will gladly put on a slip collar outside. The next client that I see, I might have to put them onto a prong collar, depending on the dog's level of arousal, depending on the behaviors that they've been pushing through and that they've been reinforcing. It's about control and communication. Again, if I've got a dog, a Doberman that is just jumping around and potentially pulling the owner over, I'm not going to put them on a fucking gentle halty and just say, make sure you've got loads of cheese, because that's not how it works. Okay. If you do decide to go with a training tool, um, you will need to go through that conditioning phase. Okay, the dog needs to understand what that sensation means, whatever it is. Slip collar, prong collar, e collar. The dog needs to understand what they do. What the sensation means and what they need to do when they feel that sensation. Okay, so ideally, when a dog feels pressure, we want them to submit to it. We want them to submit and we want them to come back, or we want them to stop whatever it is they're doing. If you just put the training tool on a dog and you take them out into the big wide world, there's a real good chance that you're going to end up freaking the dog out, because the way that I describe it to clients is it's like learning a language. Certain amounts of pressure have different meanings, and if the dog isn't speaking the same language as you, then there is definitely going to be conflict. If there's conflict, there's going to be frustration, and you are going to end up in the exact same boat as you were before the training collar. And believe me, I've seen plenty of owners that have had training collars on, and because the communication hasn't been clear, and they've not been conditioned, the dog is able to pull into that training collar like they do a flat collar. All right, it is possible. Training collars aren't the be all end all either. It's not a case of prong on your dog, there you go, off you go, we'll never see you again. Some people do think that. Some people do get a bit equipment heavy, joysticking the dog, just literally using that equipment to control the dog. and the dog is just waiting for pressure. They're waiting to be moved somewhere or dragged somewhere, and that is their life now. That should not be the case either. If the collar is conditioned properly and appropriately, then technically you will very hardly use the collar. But when you do, it's going to have some meaning. So if you do use a training collar, I would recommend finding a very reputable balance trainer that understands your needs, understands the dog needs, and certainly understands how that fucking piece of equipment works. Okay. In terms of, excuse me, in terms of e-collars, well, you know, nine times out of 10 clients want to use an e-collar because they want their dog to have off-lead freedom. When we talk about things like reactivity, for instance, training collars, prong collars and slip collars and flat collars, they tend to make reactivity worse because they're offering opposition reflex. Don't get me wrong, you can have a wonderful relationship with your dog, but if your dog has this behavior thoroughly ingrained into their brain, then that is what they will do. Now, the lead, all reactive dogs are reactive on lead. Okay. Um, Reactive dogs, they're not aggressive, all right, because aggressive dogs don't give any warning. They don't bark and fucking jump around, make themselves well known that they're going to come and attack. All right, it tends to go into fighting phase because we're talking high states of arousal, so that's where it all falls down. But they're not aggressive, um, and by using something like an e-collar, an electronic collar, well, you can get rid of the lead. You can offer the dog freedom, and you can teach the dog that, look, if you don't like this situation, then you can go off and you can create space. Something that you couldn't do beforehand because you were attached to me on the lead. And also, what you can do is you can condition the e-collar to mean something. So, a lot of my clients, they want to know that they want the dog for recall, they want ultimate freedom, but in case they see anything or chase any wildlife or anything, then they want their dog to come back. So, we condition the sensation of the stimulation over the action of the recall. We do it in a positive way so that when the dog feels the stimulation, positive waves and positive vibes and positive emotions are all released, and the dog comes running back and they get rewarded for it. It literally is that simple. It's a lot of hard work and it's repetition, 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 but that's the effects of a training collar. Without using training collars, training is probably going to be like a really steep uphill struggle, and it's going to be frustrating. There's going to be conflict. And if anything, I mean, we're talking from a dog's perspective here, how about we go to a training collar? We introduce a bit of a calm moment for the dog, and then we create an opportunity for the dog to make some good choices. You're not going to be able to do that if you're in a harness, head halty, flat collar, chucking fucking cheese all over your floor. Okay. So if you're thinking about using a training collar, then definitely go see a trainer. Okay. It could be make or break between you and your dog. If you are using a training collar and you find that the dog is still pushing those boundaries, they are still kind of taking the piss a bit, have you gone through a conditioning phase? Okay. If you haven't, definitely get in touch with a trainer. I can easily do a video on how to condition a training collar for you if you like. And just take things nice and steady and slow. All right. It's there for communication, very clear communication and control of our dogs. Think of it as, like I said, you're creating a training window for the dog to learn right from wrong.